Daniel Hill's fist connected with Zorn's jaw, sending the Prylorian official staggering backward. The human diplomat had just saved an alien girl from her cruel stepfather, and now he was facing the consequences. The confrontation unfolded in the bustling central plaza of the Earth-Prylorian space station orbiting Jupiter. Onlookers gasped, their attention drawn to the spectacle of a human standing up to a high-ranking Prylorian. Daniel, a 28-year-old diplomatic liaison, stood his ground, his body tense and ready for another attack. Zorn, his iridescent skin flushed with anger, lunged at Daniel. The human sidestepped, using the Prylorian's momentum against him. Years of combat training kicked in as Daniel grappled with the larger alien, showcasing the superior strength and agility that humans possessed in the lower gravity of the space station. "You dare interfere in Prylorian affairs?" Zorn spat, his large expressive eyes narrowing with rage. Daniel's voice was steady as he responded, "I dare to stop abuse, regardless of species." The crowd grew, a mix of humans and Prylorians watching the altercation with a mixture of shock and fascination. Among them stood Quasar, the young Prylorian female Daniel had been protecting. Her iridescent skin shimmered with fear and relief as she watched her stepfather being subdued. The Earth-Prylorian alliance was still in its infancy, a delicate balance of mutual need. Humanity offered rare resources, while the Prylorians brought advanced technology to the table. This incident threatened to upset that fragile equilibrium. Daniel had known the risk when he decided to intervene. For weeks he had gathered evidence of Zorn's abuse, using the station's surveillance systems and his own hidden cameras. The diplomatic crisis he now faced was a price he was willing to pay to protect Quasar. As Daniel pinned Zorn to the ground, security personnel finally arrived. The human guards looked uncertain, torn between their duty to maintain order and their loyalty to one of their own. The Prylorian security members bristled at the sight of a human manhandling one of their officials. Admiral Sarah Chen, the station's human commander, pushed through the crowd. Her face was a mask of professional neutrality, but Daniel caught the glimmer of approval in her eyes. She would have to navigate the political fallout of this incident, balancing human interests against Prylorian demands for Daniel's arrest. Quasar stepped forward, her voice trembling but determined. "He saved me," she announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Zorn has been abusing me, and Daniel Hill exposed his crimes." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some Prylorians looked skeptical, while others seemed horrified at the accusation. The humans in the audience stood a little taller, pride evident in their posture at Daniel's actions. As security led Zorn away, Daniel noticed a group of hardline Prylorians huddled in a corner, their faces contorted with outrage. He knew this incident would have far-reaching consequences, potentially sparking an interspecies conflict that could unravel the alliance and lead to war. Quasar approached Daniel, gratitude shining in her large eyes. As their gazes met, Daniel realized that his actions had not only saved her from cruelty, but had also forged a connection between them that transcended species. The human and the alien girl stood together, united against the storm that was surely coming. The stage was set for a tale of human courage, interspecies understanding, and the power of standing up for what's right, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Daniel Hill had taken the first step on a journey that would test the limits of human diplomacy, strength, and compassion in the vast expanse of space. The crowd dispersed as Admiral Sarah Chen took control of the situation. Her voice, firm and authoritative, cut through the tension. "All personnel, return to your designated areas immediately. We are initiating emergency protocols." Daniel felt a firm hand on his shoulder and turned to see a human security officer. "Mr. Hill, you need to come with us," the officer said, his tone leaving no room for argument. As Daniel was led away, he caught a glimpse of Quasar, her iridescent skin shimmering with uncertainty. Without hesitation, he called out to Admiral Chen, "Sir, what about Quasar? She's not safe here." Admiral Chen's eyes darted between Daniel and the young Prylorian. After a moment's consideration, she nodded. "Take her with you. We'll sort this out once things calm down." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Daniel found himself in his living quarters, now transformed into a makeshift safe house. human security personnel stood guard outside, their presence a constant reminder of the precarious situation. Quasar sat on the edge of Daniel's couch, her large eyes taking in every detail of the human living space. I don't know how to thank you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel smiled, trying to put her at ease. You don't need to thank me. It was the right thing to do. As night fell on the station, the air thrummed with tension. Daniel's comm unit buzzed incessantly with updates from Earth. The United Earth Council was in an uproar, divided on how to handle the situation. Some counselors advocated for a cautious approach, fearing the loss of Prylorian technology. Others, emboldened by Daniel's actions, pushed for a stronger stance against what they saw as systemic abuse within Prylorian society. In the early hours of the morning, Daniel received a direct communication from the council. Their decision was clear. They would stand behind him. The protection of sentient beings, regardless of species, was deemed a fundamental human value worth defending. As Daniel relayed this information to Admiral Chen, the station shuddered. Lights flickered and a low hum filled the air. We've got problems, Chen's voice crackled over the comm. Multiple systems are failing across human-occupied sectors. Life support is unstable. Daniel's mind raced. He had spent years studying the station's hybrid human-Prylorian systems. Admiral, I think I can help. This isn't a random malfunction. It's targeted sabotage. With Chen's authorization, Daniel assembled a team of human technicians. They worked tirelessly, countering each act of sabotage with innovative solutions. Daniel's quick thinking and adaptability shone through as he jury-rigged systems and rerouted power in ways that even surprised some of the Prylorian engineers monitoring the situation. As they worked, Daniel caught snippets of conversation among the Prylorians. Some expressed grudging admiration for the humans' resourcefulness. Others, like Zorn and his hardline followers, seethed with resentment. Days passed in a cycle of crisis and resolution. In the rare moments of calm, Daniel found himself drawn to Quasar. They talked for hours, sharing stories of their vastly different upbringings. Quasar's eyes widened as Daniel described Earth's diverse ecosystems and cultures. In turn, she shared insights into Prylorian society that no human had ever been privy to before. One evening, as they shared a meal of synthesized proteins designed to accommodate both their biologies, Quasar's expression turned serious. Daniel, there's something you should know about our technology. It's not just advanced, it's alive in a way. That's why Zorn's sabotage is so effective. He's not just damaging machines, he's hurting sentient systems. This revelation sent shockwaves through the human leadership. Admiral Chen, recognizing the need for a diplomatic solution, organized a joint human Prylorian council. To Daniel's surprise, she appointed him as the human representative. The council chambers buzzed with tension as humans and Prylorians faced each other across a long, curved table. Zorn sat opposite Daniel, his iridescent skin flushed with scarcely controlled rage. As Daniel presented evidence of the abuse and sabotage, Zorn's anger boiled over. With a roar, he lunged across the table. Daniel braced for impact, but it never came. In a blur of movement, Quasar intercepted her stepfather, her lithe form executing a complex series of moves that left Zorn pinned to the ground. The chamber fell silent, all eyes on the young Prylorian who had just defended a human against one of her own kind. It was a moment that would be replayed across communication channels throughout human and Prylorian space. As security led Zorn away, Daniel noticed a shift in the Prylorian council members' demeanor. The open hostility had been replaced by curiosity and, in some cases, respect. The negotiations took on a new tone after that incident. Progress was slow but steady. However, just as it seemed they might reach an understanding, alarms blared throughout the station. Admiral Chen's voice came over the general comm. Attention all personnel. We've detected an unidentified object approaching at high speed. All hands to battle stations. Daniel and Quasar rushed to the command center, where they found Chen staring at a holographic display. A sleek, unfamiliar shape was rapidly approaching the Jupiter system. What is it? Daniel asked, his voice hushed. Chen shook her head. Unknown. It's not matching any human or Prylorian designs. As they watched, more ships appeared on the display, the human reinforcement fleet, led by the imposing figure of Admiral Marcus Graves. Their arrival had been barely noticed in the face of this new threat. A new voice joined the conversation, Ambassador Lyra, the newly arrived Prylorian diplomat. Her tone was measured but urgent. "We have a decision to make," she said, looking from Chen to Graves to Daniel. "Do we face this threat together, or do we let our differences divide us in the face of the unknown?" All eyes turned to the display, where the mysterious object continued its relentless approach. The future of human Prylorian relations, and perhaps the safety of both their species, hung in the balance. The tension in the command center was palpable as all eyes remained fixed on the holographic display. The unknown object continued its relentless approach, its sleek form growing larger with each passing second. Admiral Chen broke the silence, her voice steady and resolute. "Ambassador Lyra is right. We must face this together." She turned to Admiral Graves, who nodded in agreement. "Agreed," Graves said. "Our combined fleet will take up defensive positions around the station." As the human and Prylorian ships maneuvered into formation, Chen turned to Daniel. "Hill, I need you to lead a mixed team to investigate that object. Your experience with both our technologies makes you uniquely qualified." Daniel straightened, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "I understand, Admiral. I'll assemble a team immediately." As he turned to leave, Quasar stepped forward. "I volunteer to join the mission," she said, her iridescent skin shimmering with tenacity. Chen hesitated, glancing at Ambassador Lyra. The Prylorian diplomat nodded almost imperceptibly. "Very well," Chen said. "Your knowledge could prove invaluable." Within the hour, Daniel found himself aboard a specially modified shuttle, a team of humans and Prylorians at his back. The craft hummed with a blend of technologies from both species, a testament to what they could achieve when working together. As they approached the mysterious object, its true nature became clear. It was a massive derelict spacecraft, its design unlike anything in human or Prylorian records. The ship's hull was etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. "Incredible," breathed Quasar, her large eyes wide with wonder. "The level of engineering required for this, it's beyond anything we've ever seen." Daniel nodded, his mind racing with the implications. "All right, team, we're going in. Stay alert and stick together." As they docked with the alien vessel, Daniel couldn't shake a sense of foreboding. The airlock cycled, and they stepped into a corridor bathed in a soft, pulsing light. No sooner had they entered than a shrill alarm blared. Panels in the walls slid open, revealing sleek metallic orbs that crackled with energy. "Automated defenses," shouted Kira, one of the human engineers. "Everyone, take cover." The team scattered as energy bolts sizzled through the air. Daniel's combat training kicked in as he rolled behind a jutting piece of alien technology. He caught sight of Quasar, her iridescent skin flickering rapidly in distress as she ducked behind a column. "Quasar," he called out, "can you make sense of these systems?" The young Prylorian's eyes darted around, taking in the unfamiliar technology. I think so. Give me a moment." As Quasar worked, the human members of the team showcased their adaptability. Kira jury-rigged a portable shield from spare parts in her kit, while Sergeant Reeves used the uneven terrain to outmaneuver the defense orbs. After several tense minutes, Quasar's voice rang out triumphantly. "I've got it! Daniel, there's a control panel to your left. The third symbol from the top should deactivate the defenses." Daniel lunged for the panel, his fingers finding the symbol Quasar had indicated. The moment he pressed it, the alarm ceased, and the defense orbs retreated into the walls. "Nice work, everyone," Daniel said, catching his breath. "Quasar, that was incredible." The young Prylorian's skin flushed a deeper shade of blue, her equivalent of a blush. "I just applied what I know of our systems to their design. It's fascinating how similar yet advanced it is." With the immediate danger past, the team pressed deeper into the ship. They encountered more automated systems, but Quasar's growing understanding of the alien technology allowed them to bypass most obstacles. Finally, they reached what appeared to be the main computer core. It was a massive structure, pulsing with energy and covered in holographic displays that flickered in and out of existence. "This is it," Daniel said, his voice hushed with awe. "Quasar, can you access the database?" The young Prylorian approached the core, her fingers dancing over the alien interface. After several minutes of intense concentration, she gasped, "Daniel, you need to see this." As Daniel looked at the translated data, his blood ran cold. The ship belonged to an ancient race that had once dominated the galaxy, their technology far beyond even the Prylorians. But their civilization had been wiped out by a plague of their own creation, a cautionary tale of scientific hubris. "There's more," Quasar said, her voice trembling. "They kept samples of the plague. It's here on this ship, in a sealed chamber." Before Daniel could respond, a new alarm blared. The computer core pulsed rapidly, and the ship shuddered around them. "It's a self-destruct sequence," Kira shouted over the noise. "We triggered some kind of failsafe." Daniel's mind raced. "Everyone, back to the shuttle, now!" They ran through the corridors, the ship breaking apart around them. Just as they neared the airlock, a section of the ceiling collapsed. Daniel heard a cry and turned to see Quasar trapped beneath the debris. Without hesitation, he rushed back. "Hold on, I've got you!" He strained against the weight of the alien metal, his muscles screaming in protest. With a final burst of effort, he lifted the debris enough for Quasar to slip free. As they ran the final stretch to the shuttle, a falling beam struck Daniel's leg. He stumbled, pain shooting through his body, but Quasar caught him, supporting his weight. They barely made it to the shuttle before the alien ship exploded. The force of the blast sent their small craft tumbling through space, alarms blaring as systems failed. "Status report," Daniel called out, gritting his teeth against the pain in his leg. "Main power's offline," Kira reported. "Communications are down. We're drifting." Daniel nodded, his mind already working on solutions. "All right, we need to get emergency power online and send out a distress signal. Kira, work on the power systems. Sergeant Reeves, see what you can do about communications. Quasar, I need your help with navigation." As they worked, Daniel could feel the tension building in the small confines of the shuttle. The Prylorian members of the team kept casting suspicious glances at their human counterparts, the recent conflict still fresh in their minds. "This is your fault," one of the Prylorians muttered. "If humans hadn't interfered—" "Enough," Daniel cut in, his voice firm despite his injury. "We're all in this together now. Our chances of survival depend on our ability to work as a team." His words seemed to have an effect as the team settled into an uneasy truce. As hours passed with no sign of rescue, Daniel found himself mediating more disputes, drawing on all his diplomatic training to keep the peace. Through it all, Quasar remained by his side, tending to his injured leg and assisting with the repairs. Their shared ordeal seemed to have deepened their connection, and Daniel found himself increasingly aware of her presence. As they worked side by side, Quasar's large eyes met his. "I've never met anyone like you, Daniel," she said softly. "You humans are so resilient." Daniel smiled through his pain. "We've had to be, but we couldn't have survived this without your knowledge." Their moment was interrupted by a crackle from the comm system. Sergeant Reeves let out a whoop of triumph. "I've got it working. We can send out a distress signal now." As the signal went out, Daniel allowed himself a moment of hope, but he knew their ordeal was nowhere near the end. Somewhere out there, the space station was dealing with the aftermath of their discovery, and the fragile alliance between humans and Prylorians hung in the balance. In the vast emptiness of space, their small shuttle drifted, carrying with it the fate of two species and the terrible knowledge of an ancient threat that could one day reawaken. Return one day. The thought sent a chill down Daniel's spine as he surveyed the faces of his team, each bearing the weight of their discovery. A sudden jolt rocked the shuttle, sending a fresh wave of pain through Daniel's injured leg. He gritted his teeth, fighting to maintain his composure as the others looked to him for guidance. "Status report," he managed, his voice strained. Kira's fingers danced over her console. "Power levels critical, life support systems failing. We've got maybe an hour left before—" She was cut off by a burst of static from the comm system. Sergeant Reeves leaned in, adjusting frequencies with practiced ease. I think, yes, someone's picked up our distress signal. The shuttle's occupants held their breath as a voice crackled through the speakers, distorted but unmistakably that of Captain Elena Rodriguez. This is the CSV Horizon. We've locked onto your position and are en route. Hold tight, rescue team inbound. A collective sigh of relief filled the small craft. Daniel felt Quasar's hand on his shoulder, her touch conveying both comfort and concern. He met her gaze, seeing his own mix of hope and apprehension reflected in her large, expressive eyes. The wait seemed interminable, each minute stretching as systems continued to fail around them. Daniel's vision began to blur, the pain in his leg intensifying. He barely registered the docking procedure as the rescue ship arrived, the rush of fresh air as the airlock opened, the firm grip of hands lifting him onto a stretcher. Through the haze of pain, Daniel caught glimpses of the rescue team, a mix of humans and Prilorians working in seamless coordination. He felt a surge of pride at this tangible proof of what their species could accomplish together. As they transferred him to the Horizon's medical bay, Daniel's last conscious thought was of Quasar. He saw her hovering nearby, her iridescent skin flickering with worry. Then darkness claimed him. Daniel drifted in and out of consciousness, catching fragments of conversation around him. Dr. Jared Harper's voice cut through the fog. Severe internal bleeding, beyond our current capabilities. Then Quasar, her voice tinged with desperation. There's a Prilorian technique, bioregenerative nanites, but it's never been used on a human before. The voices faded, replaced by the steady hum of medical equipment. Time lost all meaning as Daniel floated in a sea of darkness, occasionally surfacing to catch brief moments of lucidity. He awoke fully in the station's medical bay, the familiar hum of life support systems filling his ears. As his vision cleared, he saw Quasar slumped in a chair beside his bed, her usual vibrant colors muted with exhaustion. "Quasar," he croaked, his throat dry. She startled awake, her skin briefly flashing a brilliant blue, before settling into a warm, relieved glow. "Daniel! You're awake!" Before he could respond, the door slid open, admitting Dr. Harper and a Prilorian healer Daniel didn't recognize. The doctor's face broke into a wide grin. "Welcome back, Mr. Hill. You gave us quite a scare." Daniel struggled to sit up, wincing at the residual pain in his leg. "What happened? How long was I out?" The Prilorian healer stepped forward, her movements graceful and purposeful. "You've been unconscious for 3 days. Your injury was severe, beyond the capabilities of human medicine alone." Dr. Harper nodded, gesturing to Quasar. "If it wasn't for her quick thinking and the Prilorian medical technology she told us about, we might have lost you." Daniel turned to Quasar, who ducked her head shyly. "You saved my life," he said softly. "We all did," she replied, her skin shimmering with a mix of emotions. "It was human and Prilorian medicine working together that pulled you through." As Daniel absorbed this information, Admiral Chen and Ambassador Lyra entered the room. The Admiral's usually stern face softened with relief at seeing Daniel awake. "Good to see you back with us, Hill," Chen said. "We have a lot to discuss." Over the next hour, they briefed Daniel on the events that had transpired during his incapacitation. The information retrieved from the alien ship had sent shockwaves through both human and Prilorian communities. The threat of an ancient pathogen capable of decimating both species had created a new sense of urgency and common purpose. "We've established a joint task force to study the pathogen and develop potential defenses," Ambassador Lyra explained, her tone serious but tinged with hope. "Your team's discovery may have just saved both our species." As they talked, Daniel couldn't help but notice the undercurrent of tension in the room. Despite the progress made, it was clear that not everyone was on board with this new spirit of cooperation. "There's been resistance," Admiral Chen admitted, her expression darkening. "Zorn and his followers have been spreading rumors, trying to undermine our efforts." Daniel felt a surge of anger at the mention of Zorn. "What kind of rumors?" Ambassador Lyra sighed, her gaze flickering to Quasar. "They're claiming that Quasar has been brainwashed or coerced by humans. They see her devotion to you as a threat to Prilorian cultural identity." Quasar's skin rippled with distress, and Daniel instinctively reached out to comfort her. The simple gesture didn't go unnoticed by the others in the room. Your recovery has become a symbol of what humans and Pralorians can achieve together, Chen continued, which is why we've proposed a public demonstration of the medical procedure that saved your life. Daniel raised an eyebrow. A public demonstration? Ambassador Lyra nodded. We believe it could shift public opinion, show the benefits of our cooperation. But it's not without risks. Zorn's followers have already tried to sabotage our research efforts. We've had to increase security across the station. As if on cue, the door opened again, admitting Security Chief Marcus Wolf. The burly man nodded to Daniel before addressing the group. We've uncovered a plot to disrupt the demonstration, Wolf reported grimly. Zorn's people have infiltrated key positions in the medical bay. We're working on rooting them out, but we need to be prepared for anything. The weight of the situation settled over the room. Daniel looked from face to face, seeing drive mixed with concern. Despite the pain still lingering in his body, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. When is this demonstration scheduled? He asked. Admiral Chen met his gaze steadily. Tomorrow, we're broadcasting it throughout the station and to both our homeworlds. The eyes of 2 species will be on us. Daniel nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. Then we'd better make sure it goes off without a hitch. What's the plan? As the others began to outline the security measures and contingencies, Daniel caught Quasar's eye. She offered him a small smile, her skin shimmering with a mix of anxiety and commitment. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew they would face them together. Outside the medical bay, unbeknownst to those inside, Zorn's followers moved quietly through the station, putting the final touches on their plan to sabotage the demonstration and discredit the human Prylorian alliance once and for all. The hours leading up to the demonstration ticked by with agonizing slowness. Daniel, confined to his bed in the medical bay, could feel the tension radiating from everyone who entered the room. Security Chief Marcus Wolf's visits became more frequent, his piercing gaze sweeping the area for any signs of trouble. We've implemented additional security measures, Wolf informed Daniel during one such visit. Mixed teams of human and Prylorian guards are stationed throughout the medical bay. No one gets in or out without clearance. Daniel nodded, appreciating the chief's thoroughness. As Wolf turned to leave, Daniel caught a glimpse of the guards outside his door, a burly human woman and a tall, iridescent Prylorian standing shoulder to shoulder. The sight filled him with a mixture of hope and apprehension. Quasar's arrival brought a welcome distraction from the growing tension. She moved with purpose, her skin flickering with persistence as she approached Daniel's bedside. I need to check your medical supplies, she explained, her large eyes scanning the array of equipment surrounding him. Daniel watched as Quasar meticulously examined each vial and container. Suddenly, her skin flashed a deep purple, a color Daniel had come to associate with alarm. What is it? He asked, struggling to sit up. Quasar's voice was low and urgent. This compound, it's not right. The molecular structure is off. She held up a vial of shimmering liquid. If we had used this during the procedure, it could have been lethal. Without hesitation, Quasar activated her communicator. Chief Wolf, we have a situation in the medical bay, possible sabotage of medical supplies. Wolf's response was immediate. Stay where you are. I'm on my way. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Wolf's team swept through the medical bay, using a combination of human scanning technology and Prylorian sensory devices to trace the tampered supplies. Daniel caught snippets of conversation. Zorn's followers infiltrated the medical staff, moving to apprehend. From his bed, Daniel felt frustratingly helpless. He could hear the distant sounds of a commotion, shouts, and the stomping of boots. Later, he learned of the tense standoff in the station's corridors, where Wolf's team had efficiently subdued the Prylorian saboteurs. Admiral Chen and Ambassador Lyra arrived as the situation was brought under control. Their faces were grim but determined. We're proceeding with the demonstration, Chen announced. We can't let Zorn's people think they've won. Lyra nodded in agreement. We'll inform the station's population about the foiled attempt. It will show the strength of our alliance. As the medical team prepared Daniel for the procedure, he caught Quasar's eye. She moved to his side, her skin shimmering with a mix of anxiety and commitment. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. Daniel managed a weak smile. "As ready as I'll ever be. Quasar, thank you. For everything." She squeezed his hand gently, her touch sending a warm current through his body. "We're in this together, Daniel. All of us." The anesthesia took hold, and Daniel drifted into darkness. He awoke to a scene of controlled chaos. The room was filled with a mix of human doctors and Prylorian healers, their movements a choreographed dance of precision and skill. Dr. Harper's voice cut through the haze. "BP's dropping. We need to stabilize him before we continue." A Prylorian healer responded, her melodic voice calm but urgent. "Initiating bioregenerative sequence. Human vital signs are responding differently than expected. Adjusting parameters." Daniel felt a strange tingling sensation spreading through his body. He tried to speak but found he couldn't move. Through half-lidded eyes, he watched the medical team work, human and Prylorian technology seamlessly integrated. Suddenly, the lights flickered and died. Emergency generators kicked in, bathing the room in an eerie red glow. Alarms blared in the distance. "Power loss in multiple sectors," a voice announced over the intercom. "Initiating emergency protocols." Dr. Harper's voice remained steady. "Switch to backup systems. We can't stop now." Daniel heard the whir of portable generators being activated. The human medical staff moved with practiced efficiency, adapting to the power loss with impressive resourcefulness. He saw a human nurse hand a glowing Prylorian device to one of the healers, who nodded in appreciation. Through the fog of sedation, Daniel became aware of a familiar presence. Quasar's voice drifted to him from somewhere nearby. "The human power systems are different from ours, but the principles are similar. If we reroute the auxiliary power through these conduits..." He heard the excited response of a human engineer. "Brilliant! That could work. Let's give it a try." As Daniel drifted in and out of consciousness, he caught glimpses of the procedure's progress. Human doctors consulted with Prylorian healers, their combined expertise overcoming obstacles that would have stymied either species alone. Despite the challenges, there was a sense of unity and purpose that filled the room. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Daniel heard Dr. Harper's triumphant voice. "Vitals are stabilizing. The procedure was a success." As the sedation wore off, Daniel became aware of a warm pressure on his hand. He opened his eyes to see Quasar beside him, her skin glowing with relief and joy. "Welcome back," she said softly. Daniel tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Quasar offered him water, supporting his head as he drank. "How long?" he managed to croak. "The procedure took over 8 hours," Quasar explained. "There were complications, but you're going to be fine." Before Daniel could respond, Admiral Chen entered the room, her usually stern face softened with relief. "Glad to see you awake, Hill. You've become quite the celebrity." Daniel's brow furrowed in confusion. Chen explained, "The demonstration was broadcast throughout the station and to both our homeworlds. Despite Zorn's attempts at sabotage, it's been hailed as a triumph of human Prylorian cooperation." As Chen spoke, Daniel noticed the flurry of activity beyond his room. Human and Prylorian staff moved with newfound camaraderie, exchanging smiles and friendly gestures. "There's more," Chen continued, her voice lowering. "I've received authorization from Earth's United Council to negotiate a more comprehensive alliance with the Prylorians. They're even willing to share some of our advanced technologies." Daniel's eyes widened at the implications. He glanced at Quasar, who was listening intently, her skin shimmering with excitement. Chen wasn't finished. "Ambassador Lyra is already working on a proposal for a joint scientific initiative. And as for Zorn..." A hint of satisfaction crept into her voice. "He tried to flee the station, but our security teams apprehended him. He's in custody now." As the Admiral spoke, Daniel felt a surge of hope. The challenges they had faced, the barriers they had overcome, it all seemed to be leading to something greater than they had imagined. Chen's communicator chirped, interrupting his thoughts. She glanced at it, her expression growing serious. I need to go. There's still a lot of work to be done. She nodded to Daniel and Quasar before striding out of the room. Left alone, Daniel turned to Quasar. There was so much he wanted to say, so many questions he wanted to ask. But for now, he simply reached out and took her hand, marveling at the way her skin shimmered in response to his touch. As they sat together in comfortable silence, neither of them aware of the scattered debris from the alien ship drifting through the Jupiter system, carrying with it traces of an ancient and deadly threat that would soon test the strength of their newfound alliance. Alliance. The words hung in the air, pregnant with possibility. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the medical bay. Daniel's heart raced as he saw Quasar's skin pulse with urgent colors. Atmospheric contamination detected, a computerized voice announced. All personnel report to designated safety zones. Admiral Chen burst back into the room, her face etched with concern. We've got a situation. Debris from the alien ship is entering Jupiter's atmosphere. It's carrying traces of the pathogen. Daniel struggled to sit up, ignoring the protest of his healing body. How bad is it? Bad enough, Chen replied grimly. We're setting up a task force to address the threat. Hill, I want you to lead it. Despite his weakened state, Daniel nodded without hesitation. I'm ready, Admiral. Quasar's skin flickered with worry. Daniel, you've just undergone a major procedure. You need time to recover. Chen held up a hand. I understand your concern, Quasar, but Daniel's experience with the alien ship and his ability to work with both our species make him uniquely qualified for this role. As if to emphasize the urgency of the situation, the station shuddered slightly. Outside the medical bay's viewport, Daniel could see faint streaks of light as debris entered Jupiter's upper atmosphere. Quasar, Chen continued, we need you on this task force too. Your expertise in Prilorian technology will be invaluable. Over the next few days, as Daniel regained his strength, the task force took shape. Human engineers, led by Chief Engineer Dr. Samuel Carter, worked tirelessly to develop atmospheric scrubbers. Daniel watched in awe as Carter's team pushed the boundaries of human innovation. The scrubbers create a localized magnetic field, Carter explained during a briefing. It attracts and filters out the contaminated particles before they can spread further. Beside him, lead researcher Zyla, a Prilorian scientist with iridescent scales, nodded in approval. Our team has developed a complementary neutralizing agent. When combined with your scrubbers, it should render the pathogen inert. As the containment efforts progressed, Daniel found himself constantly amazed by the seamless integration of human and Prilorian technologies. Yet even as hope grew, a new threat emerged. We're receiving distress calls from the Jupiter Moon Outpost, Security Chief Wolf reported one morning. Several workers are showing symptoms of infection. Daniel's stomach clenched. He turned to Quasar, whose skin had taken on a somber hue. We need to evacuate them immediately and establish quarantine protocols. The next few days blurred into a whirlwind of activity. Daniel coordinated evacuation efforts, working closely with both human and Prilorian medical teams. He pushed himself to the limit, barely sleeping as he moved from one crisis to another. Just as they seemed to be getting a handle on the situation, a new complication arose. The UES Safeguard, a specialized containment vessel from Earth, arrived at the station. Its commander, Captain Marcus Reeves, immediately clashed with Daniel over strategy. We need to shut down all Jupiter operations and force a full evacuation, Reeves insisted during a tense meeting. Daniel shook his head. That's too extreme. We're making progress with our current approach. A complete shutdown could set us back weeks. As the argument escalated, Quasar stepped forward, her skin pulsing with inspiration. What if we use the Safeguard as a mobile research station? We could continue studying the pathogen while maintaining strict containment. The room fell silent as both Daniel and Reeves considered her proposal. Finally, Reeves nodded grudgingly. It could work. We'll need to make some modifications to the ship's systems. As they implemented Quasar's plan, a new threat emerged. Reports began filtering in of a black market trade in contaminated debris. Security Chief Wolf's face was grim as he briefed the task force. We've identified several smuggling rings, both human and Prilorian, Wolf explained. They're selling fragments of the alien ship to private collectors and fringe research groups. Daniel felt a surge of frustration. If that debris spreads beyond Jupiter, we could be looking at a system-wide pandemic. Wolf nodded. I'm assembling a joint security team to crack down on the trade, but we're stretched thin as it is. The combined pressures of containment, evacuation, and security operations began to take their toll. Daniel found himself working around the clock, coordinating teams and making split-second decisions. He ignored the growing fatigue, the constant headaches, the tremor in his hands. Quasar noticed, however. Her concern grew with each passing day. Daniel, you need to rest, she insisted one evening, her skin shimmering with worry. He waved her off. I'm fine. There's too much at stake to take a break now. But he wasn't fine. During a briefing with Admiral Chen, Daniel suddenly felt the room spin. He stumbled, catching himself on the edge of a console. Hill? Chen's voice seemed to come from far away. Are you all right? Before he could respond, darkness claimed him. He awoke in the medical bay, Quasar by his side. Her skin pulsed with a mixture of relief and anger. You collapsed, she said, her voice tight with emotion. The doctors say you're suffering from extreme fatigue and stress. Your previous injury has left you vulnerable to complications. Daniel tried to sit up, but Quasar gently pushed him back down. You need to rest, Daniel. Doctor's orders. He shook his head stubbornly. I can't. The situation is too critical. I need to... You need to take care of yourself, Quasar interrupted, her skin flashing with frustration. You're no good to anyone if you work yourself to death. Their eyes locked, and for the first time since they'd met, real tension crackled between them. Daniel opened his mouth to argue further, but a commotion outside the medical bay drew their attention. Dr. Carter burst into the room, his face flushed with excitement. We've had a breakthrough, he announced breathlessly. The research team on the Safeguard has discovered a unique radiation signature that accelerates the pathogen's decay. Despite his weakened state, Daniel felt a surge of hope. That could be the solution we've been looking for, he said, struggling to sit up. We need to develop a delivery system for the radiation treatment. Quasar's skin rippled with concern, but she didn't try to stop him this time. Instead, she helped him to his feet. We'll do it together, she said softly. But you have to promise to pace yourself. As they left the medical bay, Daniel leaned on Quasar for support. The station hummed with renewed energy as news of the breakthrough spread. Human and Prylorian scientists huddled together, excitedly discussing implementation strategies. Daniel knew the road ahead would be challenging. Developing and deploying the radiation treatment on a large scale would push both species to their limits. But as he looked around at the diverse faces of his team, human and Prylorian, working side by side, he felt a glimmer of hope. The crisis had brought their two species closer together than ever before. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them united. And perhaps, in overcoming this threat, they would forge a bond that could withstand any future obstacles. With Quasar by his side, Daniel took a deep breath and prepared to address the assembled team. The future of two worlds hung in the balance, and every second counted. Daniel took a deep breath, steadying himself as he prepared to address the assembled team. The air in the room felt electric with anticipation. We have a chance to turn the tide, he began, his voice stronger than he felt. But we need to move quickly. As he outlined the plan for implementing the radiation treatment, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights bathed the room in an eerie glow. Unauthorized access detected in Communication Hub Alpha, the station's AI announced, its calm voice a stark contrast to the chaos erupting around them. Security Chief Wolf's communicator crackled to life. Sir, we've got intruders. They're heavily armed and have taken control of the comm center. Daniel's heart raced as he exchanged a worried glance with Quasar. Her skin rippled with anxiety, reflecting the tension in the room. This is Colonel Marcus Blackwood, a new voice boomed over the station-wide speakers. We are the Terran Purists, and we're here to put an end to this misguided alliance. The room erupted into a flurry of activity. Admiral Chen strode in, her face a mask of willpower. Hill, Wolf, with me. We need to assess the situation. As they hurried through the corridors, Daniel felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. He stumbled, catching himself against the wall. Quasar was at his side in an instant, her skin pulsing with concern. "Daniel, you're pushing yourself too hard." He shook his head, forcing himself to stand straight. "I can't stop now. There's too much at stake." They reached the security center, where screens displayed the chaos unfolding throughout the station. Masked figures in black tactical gear moved with military precision, securing key areas. "They've cut off all external communications," Wolf reported grimly. "We're isolated." A series of explosions rocked the station, causing the lights to flicker. Panicked voices filled the air as reports of injuries began to pour in. "Blackwood's making his point," Chen said, her voice tight with anger. "We need to regain control. Fast." Daniel's mind raced, analyzing the station's layout. "If we can access the maintenance tunnels, we might be able to outflank them." Wolf nodded, already assembling a team. "I'll lead the assault. We'll need a diversion to draw their attention." "I have an idea," Quasar interjected, her skin shimmering with inspiration. "If we modify the radiation treatment to emit a specific frequency, we could potentially neutralize their explosives." Dr. Carter's eyes widened. "Brilliant. We'd need to recalibrate the emitters, but it's possible." "Do it," Chen ordered. "Hill, coordinate with Carter and Zyla. I want that system operational as soon as possible." As they worked feverishly to modify the radiation treatment, reports of a hostage situation reached them. A group of scientists, both human and Prylorian, were trapped in a lab near the communication hub. Daniel's expression resolute. "We can't leave them there. I'll lead a rescue team." "Daniel, no," Quasar protested, her skin flashing with worry. "You're in no condition." "I know the station better than anyone," he interrupted. "I have to do this." Before anyone could argue further, he assembled a small team and headed out. They navigated the maintenance tunnels, the dim emergency lighting casting long shadows as they moved. Reaching the lab, they found the door sealed. Daniel could hear muffled voices inside, tinged with fear. He signaled to his team, then triggered the override sequence he had memorized. The door slid open with a hiss. Daniel rushed in, quickly assessing the situation. "Everyone, stay calm. We're here to get you out." As they began to evacuate the scientists, shouts echoed from the corridor. The Terran purists had discovered their presence. "Go!" Daniel ordered, positioning himself at the door. "I'll hold them off." He exchanged fire with the approaching extremists, buying time for the others to escape. But as the last scientist cleared the room, a wave of exhaustion hit him. His vision blurred, his legs giving way beneath him. The last thing Daniel saw before consciousness slipped away was Quasar rushing towards him, her skin a kaleidoscope of fear and commitment. He awoke to the gentle hum of medical equipment and Quasar's worried face hovering above him. "What happened?" he croaked. "You collapsed," she said, her voice tight with emotion. "Your body couldn't take the strain." Before he could respond, Admiral Chen entered the room, her face grim. "Blackwood's made his final play. He's threatening to release the pathogen unless we meet his demands." Daniel struggled to sit up, ignoring the protest of his battered body. "We can't let that happen. How much time do we have?" "Less than an hour," Chen replied. "Carter and Zyla think they've perfected the modified radiation treatment, but someone needs to deploy it manually in the hub." Daniel met Chen's eyes, understanding the unspoken question. "I'll do it." "Daniel, no!" Quasar interjected, her skin pulsing with alarm. "You can barely stand." He took her hand, feeling the tremor in her touch. "I have to, Quasar. No one else has the combination of skills needed for this." Chen nodded, her expression a mixture of admiration and concern. "We'll create a diversion. You'll have one shot at this, Hill. Make it count." As they prepared for the final assault, Daniel felt a strange calm settle over him. He caught Quasar's eye as they moved into position. "Whatever happens," he said softly, "I'm glad you're here." Her skin shimmered with an emotion he couldn't quite name. "Always," she replied. The next few minutes passed in a blur of action. Wolf's team launched their assault, drawing the bulk of the Terran purists' attention. Daniel and Quasar slipped into the hub through a maintenance shaft. the radiation device clutched tightly in his hands. They emerged into a scene of chaos. Alarms blared, and the air was thick with tension. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with Colonel Blackwood himself. The man's eyes blazed with a mixture of hatred and fear. "You," he spat, leveling his weapon at Daniel. "You're the one who started all this." Daniel raised his hand slowly, acutely aware of Quasar tensing beside him. "It doesn't have to end this way, Blackwood. We can talk about this." Blackwood's laugh was hollow. "Talk? While your alien friends slowly replace us, make us obsolete?" "That's not what's happening," Daniel argued, taking a cautious step forward. "The Prilorians aren't here to replace us. They're here to work with us, to help us grow." As Daniel spoke, he saw Quasar inching towards the control panel. He kept Blackwood's attention focused on him, drawing on every diplomatic skill he had learned. "You've seen what we can accomplish together," he continued. "The breakthroughs we've made, the lives we've saved. That's the future, Blackwood. Not isolation, not fear." For a moment, doubt flickered in Blackwood's eyes. Then his expression hardened. "No," he snarled, his finger tightening on the trigger. "I won't let you destroy everything we've built." Time seemed to slow. Daniel saw Blackwood's finger squeeze the trigger, heard Quasar's shout of warning. He threw himself to the side, feeling the heat of the energy blast as it seared past him. In that moment of chaos, Quasar activated the radiation device. A wave of energy pulsed through the room, making the air shimmer. Blackwood's eyes widened in realization. He lunged for the controls, but it was too late. The radiation spread throughout the station, neutralizing the explosives and beginning to purge the pathogen. With a roar of fury, Blackwood charged at Daniel. They grappled, crashing into consoles and equipment. Daniel's enhanced strength gave him an edge, but his recent injuries slowed him down. Just as Blackwood gained the upper hand, the door burst open. Security Chief Wolf and his team poured in, quickly subduing the remaining Terran purists. As Blackwood was led away in restraints, Daniel sagged against a console, his energy finally spent. Quasar was at his side in an instant, her skin pulsing with relief and concern. "It's over," he murmured, feeling the weight of the past few days crashing down on him. Quasar's touch was gentle as she supported him. "Yes," she said softly, "but I think your fight is just beginning." Daniel looked at her quizzically, but before he could ask what she meant, a wave of dizziness washed over him. The room spun, voices becoming distant and muffled. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was Quasar's face, her eyes wide with fear as she called for medical assistance. As consciousness slipped away, Daniel felt a mix of triumph and apprehension. They had won this battle, but at what cost? And what challenges still lay ahead for the fledgling human-Prilorian alliance? Daniel floated in a sea of darkness, his consciousness adrift. Muffled voices and the steady beep of medical equipment gradually filtered through the haze. He struggled to open his eyes, his eyelids feeling impossibly heavy. "His vital signs are stabilizing," a voice said. "Dr. Harper," Daniel's mind supplied hazily. "The nanobots are integrating well with his cellular structure," another voice added. This one was melodic, with an otherworldly quality. Zyla, the Prilorian healer. Daniel felt a warm pressure on his hand. A familiar voice, tinged with worry, spoke close to his ear. "Stay with us, Daniel. We need you." Quasar. Her presence anchored him, giving him something to focus on as he fought his way back to consciousness. In the command center, Admiral Sarah Chen paced back and forth, her face etched with concern. Ambassador Lyra stood nearby, her iridescent skin pulsing with a mix of anxiety and hope. "The latest reports from Dr. Harper are promising," Lyra said, her voice calm despite the tension in the room. "The hybrid treatment appears to be working." Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the medical readouts displayed on the main screen. "It's a risk, but one we had to take. Hill's too valuable to lose, both as an individual and as a symbol of our alliance." "Agreed," Lyra replied. "The courage he displayed during the Terran Purist attack has already galvanized support for our cause on both worlds." Chen's communicator chirped, interrupting their conversation. She activated it, her expression tightening as she listened to the report. "Understood. Keep me informed." Turning to Lyra, Chen's voice was grim. The news of the attack is spreading faster than we anticipated. Extremist groups on both Earth and Prylos are using it to fuel anti-alliance sentiment. Lyra's skin rippled with concern. We must act quickly to counter their narrative. Perhaps we could release footage of our joint teams working on the pathogen containment? Chen nodded, already typing commands into her datapad. Good idea. I'll have our media team prepare a statement as well. We need to emphasize the progress we've made together, show that this alliance is stronger than any terrorist threat. As they worked to craft their message, Security Chief Marcus Wolf entered the room, his face set in hard lines. Admiral, Ambassador, I have some troubling news. Chen looked up from her datapad, her eyes narrowing. Go on. Our investigation into the Terran Purus attack has uncovered evidence of outside support, Wolf reported. There are indications that elements within Earth's military-industrial complex may have provided resources and intel to the group. The room fell silent as the implication sank in. Chen's voice was steely when she spoke. We need to take this to the United Council. If there's corruption at that level, it needs to be rooted out. Lyra's skin flashed with a pattern that humans had come to recognize as willpower. I will contact the Prylorian High Council. They must be informed of this development. As the political machinations unfolded, Daniel continued his battle for survival in the medical bay. Hours stretched into days, with Quasar maintaining a constant vigil by his side. Her skin pulsed with a soft, soothing light, a silent encouragement for Daniel to keep fighting. On the third day, as Dr. Harper and Zyla were conducting their regular check, Daniel's eyes fluttered open. The room snapped into sharp focus, every detail crisp and clear in a way he had never experienced before. Daniel! Quasar exclaimed, her skin rippling with joy and relief. He turned his head to look at her, marveling at how smooth and effortless the movement felt. Quasar, he said, his voice stronger than he expected. What happened? Dr. Harper stepped forward, a mix of excitement and professional concern on his face. How do you feel, Daniel? Daniel took a moment to assess himself. He felt different, stronger, more alert. He sat up in bed, the movement fluid and easy despite days of inactivity. I feel incredible, he said, wonder coloring his voice. Zyla approached, her multifaceted eyes studying him intently. The integration of the nanobots and Prylorian regenerative compounds appears to have been successful beyond our most optimistic projections. As Daniel underwent a battery of tests, his enhanced abilities became apparent. His reflexes were faster, his strength significantly increased, and his mental acuity sharper than ever before. The medical team watched in amazement as he processed complex information at superhuman speeds, his mind making connections and leaps of logic that left even the brilliant Dr. Harper struggling to keep up. News of Daniel's recovery spread quickly through the station, a beacon of hope in the tense atmosphere that had settled over the Alliance. Admiral Chen and Ambassador Lyra seized on the opportunity, using Daniel's remarkable recovery as a powerful symbol of what humans and Prylorians could achieve together. As Daniel adapted to his new abilities, he found himself drawn even closer to Quasar. Her unwavering support during his ordeal had forged a bond between them that transcended their species differences. They spent long hours together, talking, exploring the station, and marveling at the new sensations Daniel was experiencing. It's like seeing the world for the first time, Daniel said as they stood in the station's observation dome, gazing out at the swirling storms of Jupiter. Everything is so vivid, so intense. Quasar's skin shimmered with affection and curiosity. And how do you see me now? She asked, a hint of vulnerability in her voice. Daniel turned to her, his enhanced vision taking in every nuance of her bioluminescent skin, every subtle shift in her expression. I see you more clearly than ever, he said softly, and you're more beautiful than I ever imagined. Their growing closeness did not go unnoticed. Throughout the station, humans and Prylorians alike watched their relationship develop with a mix of fascination and hope. For many, Daniel and Quasar represented the potential for true understanding and integration between their species. As Daniel's recovery progressed, he found himself thrust into the center of a new initiative. Admiral Chen, recognizing the unique potential of Daniel's enhanced abilities and his symbolic importance to the Alliance, proposed the creation of a joint human-Prilorian exploration program. "We stand at a crossroads," Chen announced to a gathered assembly of human and Prilorian leaders. "The threats we've faced, the Pathogen, the Terran Purists, have shown us the dangers of division, but they've also shown us the incredible potential of our alliance." She gestured to Daniel and Quasar, standing side by side. "These two have come to represent the best of both our species. Their courage, their dedication, and their connection to each other embody the spirit of cooperation we're striving for. That's why I'm proposing we establish a new joint exploration initiative, with Daniel and Quasar at its head." The proposal sparked intense debate among both humans and Prilorians. Many saw it as a bold step forward, a chance to push the boundaries of their knowledge and strengthen their alliance. Others worried it was too much, too soon, arguing that their focus should remain on solving the problems at hand. As discussions raged, a new development threatened to overshadow everything else. Long-range sensors, part of the early warning system established to monitor for further pathogen outbreaks, detected an anomalous signal from the outer reaches of the solar system. Daniel was with Quasar in one of the station's labs when the alert came through. His enhanced mind quickly processed the incoming data, recognizing patterns that others might have missed. "This signal," he said, his voice tight with excitement and apprehension, "it's not random. There's a structure to it, a complexity that suggests intelligence." Quasar leaned in, her skin pulsing with intense colors as she studied the readouts. Could it be related to the civilization that created the pathogen? Daniel nodded slowly, his mind racing with possibilities. "It's possible. The frequency range is similar to what we've seen in some of the pathogen's more complex behaviors." They shared a look, both understanding the weight of this discovery. If this signal truly came from the creators of the pathogen, it could represent both the greatest opportunity and the gravest threat their fledgling alliance had ever faced. As they hurried to report their findings to Admiral Chen and Ambassador Lyra, Daniel felt a surge of tenacity. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever ancient and advanced civilization they might encounter, he knew that together, humans and Prilorians stood a chance. The bond between their species, symbolized by his connection with Quasar, would be their strength in the face of the unknown. The station hummed with renewed purpose as preparations began for a possible first contact scenario. In the midst of the activity, Daniel caught Quasar's eye. Without words, they shared a moment of understanding. Whatever came next, they would face it together, as pioneers of a new era of human-Prilorian cooperation. As Daniel and Quasar rushed to report their findings, the station erupted into a flurry of activity. Admiral Chen and Ambassador Lyra convened an emergency meeting, their faces grave as they absorbed the implications of the anomalous signal. "We need to investigate immediately," Chen declared, her voice firm. "This could be the key to understanding the pathogen's origins." Lyra nodded, her skin pulsing with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Agreed, but we must proceed with caution. If this is indeed the civilization that created the pathogen, we could be facing a threat beyond our current capabilities." Chen turned to Daniel, her eyes sharp. "Hill, given your enhanced abilities and intimate knowledge of the situation, I want you to lead this mission. Your unique perspective could be crucial in interpreting whatever we find out there." Daniel straightened, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "I'm ready, Admiral, but I'll need a team I can trust." "Quasar will be your second in command," Chen replied without hesitation. "Her scientific expertise, combined with your unique connection, makes her the ideal choice." As the words left Chen's mouth, Daniel felt a surge of warmth. He glanced at Quasar, seeing his own mix of anticipation and nervousness reflected in her bioluminescent patterns. Over the next few days, the station buzzed with preparations. The HSS Pathfinder, a sleek vessel that represented the pinnacle of human-Prilorian collaboration, was outfitted for the mission. Daniel marveled at the ship's systems, his enhanced mind easily grasping the complex integration of technologies from both species. The crew selection process was intense, with Chen and Lyra personally overseeing each choice. In the end, they assembled a team of 20, 10 humans and 10 Prilorians, each chosen for their expertise and ability to work in an integrated unit. As the launch date approached, Daniel found himself in the observation dome, staring out at the swirling storms of Jupiter. Quasar joined him, her presence a comforting warmth at his side. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, her voice soft. Daniel turned to her, taking in the complex patterns rippling across her skin. With his enhanced vision, he could see depths to her expressions that he'd never noticed before. "I don't know if anyone can truly be ready for something like this," he admitted. "But with you by my side, I feel like we can face anything." Quasar's skin flushed with a pattern that Daniel had come to recognize as affection. She reached out, intertwining her fingers with his, in a gesture that bridged their physiological differences. Their moment of peace was interrupted by an urgent message from Admiral Chen. Daniel's enhanced hearing picked up the strain in her voice, even through the comm system. "Hill Quasar, report to the command center immediately. We have a situation." They arrived to find Chen pacing, her face set in hard lines. Ambassador Lyra stood nearby, her skin pulsing with concern. "Earth's United Council is threatening to withdraw support for the Alliance," Chen explained without preamble. "A faction led by Senator Victor Graves is demanding we send a purely human expedition instead of our joint mission." Daniel felt a surge of frustration. After everything we've accomplished together, how can they still be so short-sighted? Lyra's skin rippled with a pattern that humans had learned to associate with drive. This is likely a result of the revelations about internal corruption exposed by the Terran Purist incident. Some are using it as an excuse to push their own agendas. Chen's eyes blazed with persistence. "I'm authorizing the mission to proceed as planned. It may cost me my career, but I believe it's essential for the future of human-Prilorian relations." The launch of the HFY Pathfinder was a tense affair. As the ship broke free of the station's docking clamps, Daniel could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on him. From his position at the command interface, he watched as Jupiter's swirling surface gave way to the star-studded blackness of space. "Course laid in for the outer solar system," reported Lieutenant Kira Chen, the human navigator whose hands danced over the controls with practiced ease. "Prilorian sensor array fully operational," added Zex, their Prilorian science officer. "We're picking up more detailed information about the anomalous signal." As they journeyed further from Earth, the signal grew stronger. Daniel's enhanced mind processed the incoming data at incredible speeds, recognizing patterns that others might have missed. "The signal's coming from a dwarf planet in the Kuiper Belt," he announced, his voice tight with excitement. "But there's something odd about it. The planet's been hidden somehow, cloaked from our earlier observations." Quasar leaned in, her multifaceted eyes studying the readouts intently. "This level of technology, it's far beyond anything we've encountered before." As they approached the dwarf planet, the Pathfinder encountered a series of increasingly complex defensive measures. Automated systems activated, challenging the ship with technology that left even the most experienced crew members baffled. Daniel's enhanced reflexes proved crucial as he guided the ship through a maze of energy fields and gravitational anomalies. His mind worked in perfect synchronization with the ship's systems, making split-second decisions that kept them one step ahead of the planet's defenses. "Incredible," breathed Quasar as she analyzed the data streaming in. "These defenses, they're not just keeping us out, they're testing us, evaluating our responses." With Daniel's piloting and the crew's combined expertise, they managed to navigate through the defensive grid. As they entered the dwarf planet's atmosphere, they found an environment that defied explanation. "This can't be natural," Zex exclaimed, his bioluminescence pulsing with excitement. "The atmosphere, the temperature, it's all being artificially maintained to support life." They landed in a vast plain, the ship's external cameras revealing structures that were clearly not of human or Prilorian origin. As the crew prepared for their first foray onto the planet's surface, Daniel felt a mix of anticipation and caution. "Remember," he addressed the team, "we don't know what we're walking into. Stay alert, stay together, and let's make first contact one step at a time." As the airlock cycled open, Daniel took the first step onto the alien world. The ground beneath his feet felt solid, yet subtly different from any planet he'd visited before. The air, while breathable, carried scents that were entirely foreign to his enhanced senses. "Look there," Quasar pointed, her voice filled with awe. In the distance, partially obscured by swirling mists, stood a massive structure that could only be the source of the signal that had led them here. As they approached, Daniel's enhanced vision picked out details that confirmed their suspicions. "This is it," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "An outpost of the civilization that created the pathogen." The team entered the alien facility, their equipment scanning every surface, every artifact. They discovered vast data banks, filled with information that hinted at scientific knowledge far beyond their current understanding. "This data," Quasar said, her voice trembling with excitement as she interfaced with one of the terminals. "It contains information about the pathogen. Its original purpose, it was meant to be a terraforming tool." Before Daniel could respond, a holographic interface flickered to life before them. A figure appeared, its form shifting and flowing in a way that defied easy description. "Greetings," it said, its voice resonating in a way that seemed to bypass their ears and speak directly to their minds. "I am the curator, guardian of this repository of knowledge. You are the first to reach this place in many millennia. And how curious, two distinct species working in cooperation. This was rare in my creator's experience." Daniel stepped forward, feeling the weight of history pressing down upon him. "We've come seeking knowledge, hoping to understand the pathogen that threatened our worlds." The curator's form shimmered, and Daniel's enhanced perception caught subtle shifts that seemed to indicate interest. "The pathogen was but one of many tools created by those I serve. Its release was unintended, a failsafe activated long after my creators had passed into history." As the curator spoke, long-range sensors on the Pathfinder detected multiple ships approaching the dwarf planet. Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled over the comm, tight with tension. "Captain, we've got incoming. Multiple vessels, a mix of human and Prilorian designs. They're not responding to hails." Daniel's mind raced, processing the implications. "Opposing factions," he said grimly, "possibly Terran purists and their Prilorian counterparts." The curator's form flickered, its voice taking on a note of warning. "The knowledge contained here is vast and powerful. In the wrong hands, it could bring destruction on a scale you cannot imagine. There are safeguards in place, including a mechanism that would destroy this entire outpost to prevent misuse." Daniel looked at Quasar, seeing his own conflict reflected in her bioluminescent patterns. They had found a treasure trove of knowledge that could revolutionize both their societies, advance their medical understanding, and perhaps even refine the process that had enhanced Daniel. But with enemy ships closing in the threat of the outpost's self-destruct hanging over them, they faced an impossible choice. Time was running out. Daniel gathered his crew, their faces a mix of dedication and fear. As he prepared to outline their options, he knew that whatever decision they made would have far-reaching consequences for the human-Prilorian alliance and the future of both their species. The next few moments would test not only Daniel's enhanced abilities, but also the strength of the bonds forged between humans and Prilorians. As he looked at the faces of his crew, human and Prilorian alike, he felt a surge of determination. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Daniel took a deep breath, his enhanced mind racing through possibilities. He turned to his crew, their faces a mix of anticipation and fear. "We don't have much time," he said, his voice steady despite the pressure. "We need to act fast. Quasar, work with me to modify the outpost defenses. The rest of you, continue the download. Every bit of data could be crucial." Quasar's skin pulsed with acknowledgement as she moved to Daniel's side. They approached the curator, whose form flickered with interest. "Curator," Daniel addressed the alien AI, "we need your help. Can we repurpose your defensive systems?" The curator's form shimmered. "An intriguing proposal. The systems are adaptable, but the modifications would be complex." Daniel's enhanced reflexes kicked in as he interfaced with the alien technology. His fingers flew over the controls, his mind processing the intricate alien code at incredible speeds. Beside him, Quasar's scientific expertise, proved invaluable as she quickly grasped the underlying principles of the alien tech. "There," Daniel said after several intense minutes. "We've created a protective barrier around the Pathfinder. It should buy us some time." No sooner had he spoken than the ship's comm crackled to life. "Captain," Lieutenant Chen's voice was tense. "The enemy ships have entered orbit." Daniel's enhanced hearing picked up the strain in Chen's voice. "Understood. I'm taking control of our weapon systems." He moved to the weapons console, his fingers dancing over the controls. The Pathfinder's advanced targeting system, combined with Daniel's enhanced reflexes, made for a formidable combination. As the first enemy ship came into range, Daniel fired. A precise burst of energy struck the vessel's propulsion system, disabling it without causing catastrophic damage. One by one, he neutralized the approaching ships with surgical precision. Meanwhile, Quasar led the science team in their race against time. "Download at 75%, she called out, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with urgency. The minutes ticked by, filled with the tension of the ongoing data transfer and the distant explosions of disabled ships. Finally, Quasar's voice rang out, "Download complete." Relief washed over the crew, but it was short-lived. The curator's form flickered urgently. "Warning! The outpost self-destruct sequence has been activated by fail-safe protocols." Daniel's mind raced. "Everyone, back to the ship, now!" As the crew scrambled to evacuate, Quasar hesitated, her eyes fixed on the curator. "Wait," she said, her voice filled with sudden realization. "The curator's core, it contains additional data not included in the download." Daniel looked at her, then at the crumbling structure around them. In a split-second decision, he moved towards the curator's central unit. With his enhanced strength, he wrenched the core free from its housing. "Quasar, can you stabilize it?" Her hands were already moving, reconfiguring a portable stasis field. "Got it!" Together, they sprinted back to the Pathfinder, the ground shaking beneath their feet. They burst into the airlock moments before the outpost imploded, creating a massive shockwave that rocked the ship. "Hold on!" Daniel shouted as he took the helm, pushing the Pathfinder to its limits. The ship screamed through the atmosphere, the hull heating up dangerously as they fought to outrun the expanding shockwave. As they cleared the dwarf planet's gravitational pull, Daniel's enhanced vision caught sight of the disabled enemy ships. They were being drawn back towards the planet, caught in its gravitational field. "We can't leave them," he said, his voice heavy with the weight of the decision. Quasar looked at him, her multifaceted eyes reflecting his own conflict. "It's risky, but it's the right thing to do." Daniel nodded, then turned to the crew. "Prepare for rescue operations. We're going back for them." The rescue was tense and complicated. The Pathfinder's shields strained against the debris field left by the outpost's destruction as they maneuvered to pick up the stranded crews. Many of the rescued were initially hostile, but their anger gave way to grudging respect as they realized the Alliance crew had risked their lives to save them. As they set course back to the Jupiter station, Daniel and Quasar dove into the alien database. The wealth of knowledge was staggering. Medical breakthroughs, revolutionary energy production methods, and advancements in space travel that seemed to border on the impossible. "Look at this," Quasar said, her skin pulsing with excitement. "I think we found a way to neutralize the pathogen permanently." Daniel leaned in, his enhanced mind quickly grasping the complex scientific principles. "A targeted radiation technique. Brilliant. We could save countless lives with this." As they worked, Daniel couldn't help but notice how in sync he and Quasar had become. Their different physiologies, once a barrier, now seemed to complement each other perfectly. He found himself admiring the way her bioluminescent patterns shifted as she concentrated, the elegant efficiency of her movements. Quasar, too, found her gaze lingering on Daniel more often. His enhanced abilities fascinated her, but it was his unwavering dedication and compassion that truly drew her in. As they worked side by side, deciphering the secrets of an ancient alien civilization, she realized that their bond had grown into something deeper than friendship or professional respect. The journey back to the Jupiter station was filled with a mix of triumph and anticipation. They had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations, but they all knew that the real challenges and opportunities lay ahead. As the station came into view, Daniel and Quasar shared a look of understanding. Whatever the future held, they would face it together. Their partnership, a living embodiment of the potential of human-Prilorian cooperation. The Pathfinder docked at the station. Its arrival met with a mixture of cheers and shocked silence as the true scope of their mission became clear. Admiral Chen was waiting for them, her face a mask of controlled emotion, as Daniel and Quasar stepped off the ship, the alien database and the curator's core in their possession. "Well done," Chen said, her voice tight with suppressed excitement. "I think it's safe to say that you've changed the course of history today." As they made their way to the debriefing room, Daniel couldn't help but feel that they stood on the precipice of a new era. The knowledge they had gained, the bonds they had forged, both between individuals and between species, would reshape their world in ways they were only beginning to understand.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.